All right, for the next part of this video, I'm going to use the guided notes that you can find these on Canvas and print it out if you'd like to, or you can write it out by hand on your own paper if you are unable to print. Okay, so geez Louise, hold on. Hey, we can't have that. Okay, here we go. So all of these points here are written in polar coordinates, which means that the first value is r and the second value is theta. And we're gonna go ahead and plot these on this polar coordinate system that's printed down here. Now typically the angles are not written in along this like they are here, but I thought for the first one I'd put them in there so that you could remember where everything is. So it's counting by pi over 12. So, you know, it's going pi over 12. This would be 2 pi over 12, which is pi over 6, 3 pi over 12, which is pi over 4, and so on. Okay, so we're gonna first locate where the angle is. Pi over 6 is right here. And then count out towards it whatever the r value is. So we count out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we mark our point right there. So that's point A. Next, we have 2 pi over 2. Pi over 2 is up here. We're going to count towards it 2 units. Mark our point right there. So this is point B. 5 pi over 4 is here. So we're going to count towards that 1 unit. There we go. That would be right here. So this is point C. Okay, next, we're going to look at some examples where the angle is actually negative. Remember, we can plot negative angles if we rotate in the clockwise direction. So if we wanted to plot something like 2 negative pi over 2, well, you know how when we're going positive pi over 2, we go counterclockwise? It's 90 degrees, right? Counterclockwise. We're going to go clockwise from what would normally be the positive x-axis. We actually call that the polar axis here. We're going to go 90 degrees clockwise from that and then count out 2. So that puts our point right here. For this one, we're going to go pi over 6. If you look up here, pi over 6 was, we went counterclockwise 2. So we're going to go clockwise from the polar axis 2 down, and then we're going to count out 3. So we have 1, 2, 3. So that puts our point right there. This one we're going to rotate clockwise from the polar axis 3 pi over 4, which is going to put us right in the middle over here. So that would be right here. Count out 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, that puts our point right there. So what I'm basically trying to tell you is that, to clarify, this is the polar axis, and rotating like that, that's negative 3 pi over 4. And then we count out to get our point. All right, one other thing that can happen is the r values can also be negative. All right, now if the r value is negative, right, so this is r and this is theta, you're going to locate the angle like you normally would, but then you're going to count in the opposite direction of that angle. So pi over 2 is up at the top here, but our r value is negative 2, so we're going to go opposite of that. We're actually going to count down 2. Okay, so our point would wind up right there. The next one, we're going to locate pi over 6, which would be right here. But we're going to go opposite of that. So we're going to count 3. 1, 2, 3. So our point is right there. Hold on 1 second. Reese, you want this? Do you want this? Yeah. All right, last one for plotting. We're gonna look at, oh, this one has negative angle and a negative r. So we're gonna figure out where's negative 3 pi over 4. We actually did that earlier. That was right in the middle of this third quadrant area. But now we have a negative r value, so we're gonna go up into the first quadrant. 1, 2, 3, 4. And our point would wind up right there. Okay, so here's something I wanted you to think about. In rectangular coordinates, there is exactly one way to describe the location of a point, right? So if I told you to plot like the point 2, 2, you could plot it, and that's the only way to describe getting to that point 2, 2. This is not true in polar coordinates. Can you think of two other ways, different ways to specify the location of the point 4 pi over 2? Let's plot first where that is. So we're gonna go up 1, 2, 3, 4. Pi over 2 is here, that's why I'm going up there. 2, 3, 4. So our point's right there. So how else could we write this point? Well, we could make the r value negative, which would mean that we would need our angle that we put with the negative r value to be opposite of our angle that we used there. So we could say this, right? Negative 4 3 pi over 2. All right, now let's come up with another idea. What if we wanted to keep the r value positive, but maybe we make the angle negative, right? What negative angle will send us to the same location as pi over 2? We would have to rotate this much, right? That would be a rotation of negative 3 pi over 2. All right, and that's it. So this video was all about plotting points in rectangular coordinates. I think it's a good stopping point. Sorry about all the noise.